bringing you the latest news from Lubbock Cooper Athletics. This is the Pirate Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. This is the High School Fan Zone on a Wednesday night. We're going to switch gears big time. We actually did this last week. Jay Northcutt came in. We're going to talk a little bit of high school football with Chip Darden. I should know this off the top of my head, who's going into his 8th season.
That's correct.
You know how I know that all the time?
That's when you started.
It's when my website started. I
That's
believe
right.
I covered your first game. I know I covered the last game of your first season. I think I covered your first game, Coronado or Friendship that year.
I believe it was Andrews, actually.
Okay,
at
maybe
home.
I covered your second and third games then, because
that sounds right.
that's when those rivalries were already very healthy, and Friendship rivalries just gotten healthier, which we're going to talk about your schedule a little bit. I like the way things are shaping out city-wise because Liberty's playing both of them. Do you guys play Friendship? Do you play Memorial?
We did not, just Friendship.
Okay. Well, I think eventually that will be, I don't know, it may not be a district game for a while, but eventually I think there will be a big 5A district where all you guys are wrestling around. So
I agree.
We'll see. That'll be down the road. We'll jump into your schedule because I know you may not be playing Memorial, but there's not a whole lot of easy steps on that schedule. When you sent it to me, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I
learned that from our coaches, Coach Wyndham and Coach Cap, for me, that you got to do that if you want to compete in district and be a playoff top team. But we're challenging our kids like that too. They want to be challenged. They want to play good teams, and we definitely are.
Trying to think now I've seen you since the end of the football season. I saw you before your last playoff game, before the game. I didn't see you afterwards. We're not going to talk about that game that much. We're going to talk about you guys. I loved what you guys did last year, and I told you that a bunch of times. Got behind the 8 ball and just came out fighting, came out swinging. And that we've talked a lot about personality and who sets the tone for teams tonight. And you had a pretty good quarterback who helped do that for you guys last year. He's doing it in baseball as well. You're going to try to talk Ryan, see if he can petition for a 5th or 6th year.
I'd love it. Let's see if Trump can sign a executive order and get a 5 for 5 in high school.
There you go.
I'd take it. Yeah, he was like, we went through. This season was such an up and down. I mean, he kind of picked the game or picked the time of year, and it was so up and down. And I'll tell you this, it went from a stretch that was about the least fun I've had, and I think every player would say the same, where we were just really struggling, and not just losing games, but kind of how we were. That threatens or kind of throws a wrench into how your team chemistry, and it tests you big time. Went from that to for sure 3-game stretch where it's about the most fun I've ever had coaching, and it was a good group. It was a fun group to be around, and Ryan just was the ultimate leader. He's only the second 2-time captain that we've had since, I don't know, going all the way back to 1936, but since I've been around, he's only 2-time captain, and just a tremendous football player, but in baseball, as you mentioned, but leader and person, and I think that's what made him so special.
But with high school sports, you got to turn the page. Where I was joking, they don't let them come back for a 5th or 6th year. I think in New Mexico they can start playing in the 7th grade, so I guess you can have one of those. But Ryan's going to walk across that stage. Probably be a few of your opposing coaches that will show up just to make sure he takes the diploma and moves on. There's probably a lot of them tired of seeing him.
Yeah.
I know you're not, but you got to turn the page. You got to have some guys coming back. It's going to be interesting, though. I know Cooper Lunsman was the young man who stepped in for Ryan, but he was just a freshman last year. We're not going to talk too much about next season just yet, but I'm going to guess you have some guys that are eager to jump in and take the reins or compete for the job. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you can, Cooper's a good example, but I think you can go position by position and do that a little bit. We've got some returners. We've got some that, like Cooper would be a great example, and like Jathan Caraway that played, and they played significant snaps. Now, like for Jathan, Shemaine Johnson got the majority of the carries on the year, but you just, even though Jathan and Cooper might not be quote unquote returning starters, you feel good about having those guys coming back. And same up front, Wyatt Schaaf is really about our only returning true starter on the offensive line, but we've got other guys that played reps and had significant impact, and same on defense. But that's every year. You go through an off season and you go through spring sports seasons where they're competing in other stuff, and you start learning a lot about guys that maybe had a limited role. The role's going to be bigger. You see them take that step a lot of times in the spring, whether it's powerlifting or we got guys that did that wrestling for a few years and obviously track. So it's been fun to see, and we're going to look different, and I think we're going to, depth-wise, when we line up for the national anthem, we may not fill 20 to 20 like we have in the past. It may be a little smaller group, but that's okay too. And we're gonna coach a little bit different way and have kids, I think, really utilize them more than maybe we have in the past.
I may make you blush here a little bit because I use you as an example for a lot of people. You said you're going to coach differently. You guys began that a few years ago. Liberty Open, that changed the dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved your quote at the end of the year. It wasn't a game I covered. It was one of my guys covered. And you had a quote about this is the first group that went through and realized that a lot of kids they grew up with weren't there anymore. They'd gone to a different. And that's tough on a kid. They may not know it's tough at the time, but then they get a little bit older and like, man, I played with him from
for sure
5th grade to whatever, and then now you're to the point where we're to the point it'll be 4 years in. Things have kind of started to balance out. But you and your coaches coached guys differently from day one once Liberty opened. I always respected that because I think your quote, was, doesn't matter who's here or how many are here, we're going to coach them the same.
That's right. Yeah, and like we said that at the end of the year, like this team went through a lot, and it's not like a big tragedy that affected the team or something like that. But it is. It's hard. It's hard as a younger kid, and they went through it, and I think them going through that together made them better.
Yep. And as you know, your friends at Friendship are starting to experience a lot of the same thing. That's just when new schools open, things change, and it's the first time in Lubbock that's happened in a long time. So we're going to come back and talk more Lubbock Cooper football after this break on 100.7 The Score.
Breaking down Lubbock Cooper sports. This is the Pirate Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. This is the High School Fan Zone on a Wednesday night. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score and Fox 34 News Now. Chip Darden's with me. We're talking Lubbock Cooper football. I'm going to switch gears just for a minute because I know he was there last night. I haven't covered as much high school softball as I have baseball over the course of my way too long now high school sports career, but that game last night was about as good as it gets.
That was an intense softball game. That rivalry is an underrated rivalry around here in all sports. That Lubbock Cooper and Monterey softball rivalry, it's been pretty good, but it was, man, it was like big pitches. Obviously there was good hitting, and it was fun. Mm-hmm. Obviously wish we'd have come out on the right side of it, but it was a fun, exciting game. And
talking to Brennan afterwards, he said the same thing. We wanted to win, but how cool to be part of a game like that. It had everything.
Yeah.
A softball game, just back and forth. There was actually some good pitching. I know you look at 13 and 12, you're like, no, but there was actually.
There was. Wind was blowing out pretty good.
Yes. So. Yeah, the ball was hopping. You had two little chips with you.
I did.
And they were wrapped up in the game there for a little bit.
Yeah, they were, especially my oldest, Kason. He's all about it. So his first thing when he woke up this morning, we had to take him home early. First thing he said, "Did softball win?" But and then Cannon, the little one, he's into it for a little bit. But I like him being around it. But it was a good atmosphere. That place was packed. Both fan bases were loud and energetic. It was good.
So in your young coaching days, when they say, okay, you got to coach this and you need to find another sport, did you ever coach any softball or anything like that?
No, never did softball or baseball. I was basketball, and then track was usually my main one. And I was actually the head girls track coach for, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 years. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed being a head track coach. And Still pretty involved with track when I can be, but yeah, that's really it. Those sports, football, basketball, and track are the ones.
Well, basketball, I mean,
have to.
It's sort of in your bloodlines there.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact,
my daughter Blakely is wearing her grandpa out. She acts like she don't want any part of basketball.
Uh-oh. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I was going to bet, I bet you don't have to twist Chuck's arm to work with her.
I know.
I bet he talks her into it a little bit.
You're probably right.
The reason I asked that is because, you said you were the girls' head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, it doesn't surprise me because every young coach at Lubbock Cooper and at Liberty mentions you, Max, and Joe Sexton. You guys all were involved in track.
Were.
I know you probably know this. You had a positive impact on a lot of coaches. You're still a young dude, but you're not as young as some of those other coaches, and you had a positive impact on them.
Well, that's nice to hear, but it's kids. The one, like coaching girls do anything. They
Yes.
You tell you, hey, go run through a wall, they'll run through it and come back and, hey, what can I do better? And guys, I'm one of them. They're hard headed and don't want to listen.
So am I.
But so that made it fun. But I just think that's just kind of what we've had at Lubbock Cooper is. Where it doesn't matter what we're coaching or who we're coaching. Like, we've got great kids and that want to compete, and our coaches want to compete. So our coaches give everything at whatever sport they're in, and sometimes get labeled as a football coach or a whatever sport coach, but really they're just coaches and teachers, and that's what they do.
Well, and urban legend is that Chuck Darden was a pretty good football coach.
He was. I've got some longtime Shallwater people that still know that. They say that all the time. He's one of the best football coaches I ever had, and I never played under him. He was out of football by the time I got to 7th grade, but I know from being around it, I believe it.
There's long-standing stories of Bobby Magel and John Dudley being as good of football coaches as they were at baseball, and those cats knew a little bit about baseball. So it's kind of what you said. If you're a coach and you want to work with kids and you want to see them get better, you'll figure out a way.
That's right. And what's funny is that goes hand in hand with classroom teaching too. Like,
absolutely.
A lot of times we don't get into it for that, but your best coaches are good teachers. And if you're having problems with a coach out on the field or they're not doing a real good job, they're usually not doing a great job in the classroom either. So
you don't teach anymore, do you?
I don't.
When's the last time you were in a classroom as a teacher?
It would have been right before I was the head coach.
And what did you teach?
Speech.
Okay.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it.
That's why you're so good with the media.
Something like that, huh?
Butch Henderson was like a high-level math teacher. And if you get to know Butch a little bit, you're like, okay, I can see
absolutely
the way that brain works. I can see how that works. I always love stories about you guys because you're right. I think people peg, especially football coaches, get a bad rap sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's there's probably a few out there that's not a stretch, but the impact you guys have as teachers, that's why I always refer to you guys as teachers and coaches, because you guys do a lot more than just X and O and all that. So we're getting very philosophical here. We're not talking enough about football. We're coming up on break. When we come back, we'll kind of look at Lubbock Cooper's schedule and throw out some more names about who's coming back next year for the Pirates. Don't want to get too deep into it right now, but we will a little bit. Come back and join us on the High School Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Bringing you the latest news from Lubbock Cooper Athletics. This is the Pirate Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. We've got one more segment of the High School Fan Zone tonight and for this week. We're getting to a pretty key point of the spring now. And Chip, you guys don't do spring football.
Correct.
Because you guys have, even though you're a 5A school, and I've told you this before, it's still like small town feel. You have kids who go spread out and play a lot of different things, look, spring football is great if you can do it. From my perspective, maybe it's the old man in me, I don't enjoy it because the games don't count.
Right.
I need a final score. Maybe why I'm not as good at covering soccer as other stuff, because when it ends in a tie, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Thank you for not having ties in football. I bet there's not going to be any ties for these guys in the fall, because I'm going to read through this schedule. I meant to break yours out separate, but I didn't. We'll go through it real quick. Fix me if I'm wrong here. Start with Friendship at your place.
Mm-hmm.
Greenwood at your place, which if you're not familiar with Greenwood, ask the Liberty folks about how good they are. That's a really good 4A program. Then just take a little road trip to Stephenville,
they were
4A Division I state champion.
Yeah, they went 16-0 last year.
And you guys have had a little bit of a past with them.
Yeah, we had a neat little series. One was in the playoffs, and we played them in the playoffs, 4th round, and then went back to back with a home and home with them. And one of those was on ESPN, and it was a pretty cool deal. But
I remember sitting in Louisiana thinking, "Hey, that's Lubbock Cooper.
Yeah,
what's Lubbock Cooper doing on TV?" Then you go up and take on Canyon, and for folks who don't know, the head coach there now,
Matt Lovern,
Kyle Lovern's twin brother. And I believe, did they go 3 or 4 rounds deep? I know they had a little.
Yeah, they had a good year. Yeah, they. I don't remember how many rounds, but they're definitely a playoff team.
I'll tell you what, they figured out football in Canyon, Texas.
Yeah,
a couple of the schools there are pretty good at it.
Yep.
You take a week off, or you don't play that next week, and then you jump into districts against Wichita Falls Legacy. Here we go. Go back to Abilene Cooper. I'm going to bet your guys remember the last time you went there.
Yeah, they better.
Then you renew acquaintances with Coronado, which is down in 5A Division II now. Then you go to Abilene Wiley, which is traditionally just really good. Wichita Falls Memorial here. Then you wrap up against Paladuro, which had a great season last year, and just watching on social media, they ain't going to slow down.
Yeah.
They've got guys back, and they've kind of built some momentum. So, like I said, there's not a whole lot of games there where Chip Darden and his coaches can just kick their heels up and say, you guys take it from here.
No, it's tough. Like the non-district, as you build that, you kind of have an idea what your district's going to be. And we are playing some 4As, but they're just traditionally good 4As. And our numbers in our football program are going to be a lot closer to some of theirs. Stephenville probably has quite a bit more, but we're just going to overall numbers are going to be a little bit better for us. So that was good. Our open week falling where it is much better. The last 2 years it's been week 11, so we like. And
you put a positive spin on it the last 2 years, but
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. That's a long 12 weeks basically with scrimmages. That's tough, but. So hopefully this is a little bit better. And then the district, it is what it is. Plainview is dropped down, and then so did Coronado. So we get Coronado, and that's a game that we typically play. It's a great city rivalry, and then we know about those teams in the district. Paladuro is by far the team to beat. They've got, I don't even know how many starters, but it's a lot on both sides of the ball. Very talented, and we went wire to wire with them. It was a really good game, but they went 9-1, I believe, in the regular season, then won a playoff game and lost a heartbreaker in the area round. So, anytime you can win 10 games in a season, that is impressive. And so, with all the guys they got coming back, Coach Mims does a great job. I know they're going to be good. Abilene Wiley, are as tough as our district was. They don't make the playoffs last year, and they were good. I think it's their junior class that is really talented, really good group, and then great rivalry with Memorial and Legacy. We saw them that they struggled at times last year, but they were really young, and just saw a lot of improvement out of them. And I don't know if I missed it. Well, Abilene Cooper, we're not going to talk about them much. Coach Roan, I've given him closer to that. I've given him a hard time enough. But yeah, it's a challenging schedule, but we're excited about it. And I think we've got a group of guys that there's a we don't look at the schedule much right now. You're looking at each day, and without being too cliche. Coaching cliche, like we're just trying to get better right now, and then that schedule is going to challenge us, and it should be fun.
So with no spring football, you guys will start that first week of August, get about 3 weeks to get them ready, and then jump right in. And I'm glad for you. I think Estacato's the same way. I don't think they have the bye week at the end anymore either. That was just hard. To me, that'd be hard to grind through that. So we'll probably get Chip on again. Maybe I'll lure him in here this summer sometime before we get started. That's going to wrap us up on this edition of the High School Fan Zone. We'll be back Monday night on 100.7 The Score.